To set up Aws Amplify Lambda functions, start by installing the Aws Amplify CLI and configuring your AWS credentials. The Aws Amplify CLI is a tool that helps you to create, build, and manage your Aws Amplify applications. Once installed, run the command Amplify init to create a new Amplify project. Next, create a new Lambda function by running the command Amplify add function. This will prompt you to choose the runtime for your Lambda function, such as Node.js or Python. Choose your preferred runtime and follow the prompts to create your Lambda function. After creating your Lambda function, you will need to write the code for your function. This code should be written in the runtime you chose earlier and should be exported as a handler function. For example, if you chose Node.js, your code might look like exports handler equals async event equals greater than return status code 200. Once you have written your Lambda function code, you can test it locally by running the command amplify mock function. This will simulate an API request to your Lambda function and allow you to test its behavior. To deploy your Lambda function to AWS, run the command amplify push. This will create the necessary AWS resources, including an API gateway REST API and an IAM role for your Lambda function. After deploying your Lambda function, you can test it by sending an API request to the API gateway REST API. You can find the API endpoint URL in the AWS Management Console or by running the command amplify. Status. Best practices for setting up Aws Amplify Lambda functions include using environment variables to store sensitive data, such as API keys or database credentials. You should also use a consistent naming convention for your Lambda functions and API gateway REST APIs. Additionally, make sure to monitor your Lambda function's performance and adjust its configuration as needed. You can use AWS CloudWatch to monitor your Lambda function's performance and AWS X-Ray to troubleshoot any issues. By following these steps and best practices, you can set up Aws Amplify Lambda functions to handle API requests and integrate with other AWS services. This allows you to build scalable and secure serverless applications using Aws Amplify.